starting the recording today. You can see that red dot in the right-hand corner that means we're recording. So this is the third day in the hearing of Sue Novak versus State of Wisconsin Department of Corrections, specifically the Columbia Correctional Institution is the place that we're most concerned about. The administrative law judge is Alice DeLeo, DELAO. The hearing started on March 29th. It continued till March 30th, and today is March 31st, 2023. Excuse me, the EEOC number is 2021 00120. The issues in this case are whether the complainant was discriminated against in terms and conditions of employment because of sex, and terminated, whether her employment was terminated because of her sex. And those issues have been certified to the hearing and mediation section after a finding of probable cause for a hearing on the merits, and that is what we've been holding, the merits hearing on those claims. So today, as I said, is March 31st, 2023. And for the complainant, we have an appearance by
Ben Hitchcock Cross, the Cross Law Firm.
Okay. And for the respondent, there's an appearance by
Eric Mullenbach. I'm an attorney with the Department of Corrections. Also with me is Angela Riniker, who is a paralegal with the Department of Corrections, and attorney Elizabeth Longo, who is also an attorney with the Department of Corrections, but Ms. Longo is only observing.
Okay. So, the complainant is not present. That's correct, Mr. Cross.
That's correct.
Okay. So we were talking off the record about witnesses today. Mr. Dittman had waited a long time to testify, but we didn't get to him yesterday. So we are supposed to hear from him now. So that's what we're waiting for. There's an issue regarding Magda Fasahai, who is the former DOC administrator, and she was served by the complainant to testify today since she is a former employee of the DOC, and she is apparently out of town, but willing to testify this morning from where she is. But unfortunately, she's available now, and we were supposed to do Mr. Dittman now. So I'm.
And Judge, I understand he's calling in.
He's calling in? Great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then we'll do Mr. Dittman and Mr. Mullenbach. Have you heard any further information about how long Ms. Fasahai will be available?
I did. She's available today from 9:15 until 10:30.
Okay.
So
Well,
not very long.
she was subpoenaed, so she should try to make herself available longer so we can make sure we do her testimony today. Okay? Talk to her, please. And we are waiting now for Mr. Dittman. And it's unusual. She doesn't work for you anymore. She didn't contact Mr. Cross about her failure our inability to be here today. And that's what she should have done. Or it certainly should have happened that there should have been an earlier communication since she was subpoenaed. I'm still waiting for Mr. Dittman.
He just texted me and said he's doing it. I'm going to text him a picture of the code and the number.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any other issues we should discuss before Mr. Dittman comes?
I mean, I guess, I mean, that's the real question here is how do we want to do the rest of today? Do you want to put on some of your witnesses, Mr. Mullenbach, out of order? What do you think?
Not particularly. That being said, I'm willing to do so, but no, I mean, I don't want to have to put my case on before you're done with your case because that's what the burden of proof is.
Sure.
So, I mean, again, I'm obviously willing to be flexible, and I think both of us have been flexible with respect to the witnesses being called here, but no, I definitely don't want to put my case on before Ms. Novak testifies. But again, I'm willing to do maybe a one or two. I don't know that I would have a major problem with that.
Okay. All right, he's here now, so thank you. I appreciate us discussing that and having some cooperation, and we'll talk about it again later.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Dittman?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for being so patient. I appreciate it that you were waiting so long yesterday, and I appreciate you come today. Are you hearing me correctly?
Pretty good, yes. Am I coming across okay? I kind of found the best location I can.
Yes, no, I'm hearing you fine. It sounds good.
Okay.
Everybody else is hearing him. Mr. Cross, you can hear him?
I can hear him, yes.
And Mr. Mullenbach?
Yes, I can, Judge.
Okay, then I think we're ready to start. We're going to first have you raise your right hand, Mr. Dittman.
Okay.
And do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Understanding that the false statements could be prosecuted for perjury. Do you understand that statement and agree to it?
I do.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Cross is going to ask you questions first, and Mr. Mullenbach will ask you questions, all right?
Okay.
And if you don't understand something, let us know, okay?
Perfect.
Go ahead, Mr. Cross.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dittman. Have you ever worked for the Department of Corrections?
Yes, I have.
Okay, do you work there now?
I do not.
Okay, what was the last job that you had with the Department of Corrections?
The warden at the Columbia Correctional Institution.
Okay, and do you know Sue Novak?
I do.
How do you know Sue Novak?
Oh, at one point, I had known Sue through committee work throughout my career, and also for a time during my career, I supervised her when I was the warden at Red Granite Correctional Institution, and I was aware of Sue professionally in other roles that she had through the department, and I was aware that upon my retirement from Columbia Correctional Institution that she was appointed the warden to succeed me.
Okay, great. So we're gonna, with that foundational knowledge in mind, I think we're gonna focus primarily on the issue with the fence. Are you aware of whether or not Columbia had a stun fence at any time?
Yes, I'm aware they had one.
Okay. And while you were there, do you know whether this? Well, I guess can you tell us when you were the warden of Columbia?
I was the warden at Columbia, I believe it was from March of 2014 until my retirement in July of 2018.
Okay, I got it. So when during that time, do you know whether the stun fence was installed properly or not?
I believe that there was an issue with the fence where it was incorrectly installed when it was originally put in back in the mid 1980s.
Okay. And so at any time when you were warden, did you make Department of Corrections administration aware of the issue of the fence?
I believe our security director did. But again, it was one of those situations where, you know, the department at the executive levels, I mean, when the fences are put in, they are checked to see that the contracted work was completed and completed correctly. It was always my opinion that the department was aware of it, and they had to be aware of it from way back in the 80s, and it just wasn't an issue that they felt was necessary to respond to. It's my recollection that there were times when past administrators at Columbia had made Department of Corrections central office staff aware of the fact that the fence had issues with it, and nothing was done. It wouldn't have been the role of the warden to be able to contract any work to get the fence fixed. That would have been something that would have had originated from a project identified and approved by DAI central office staff.
Okay, how do you know that?
Well, that's just my memory of past projects that have gone on. Wardens are not responsible for starting and funding projects to the physical structures of the institutions. Wardens, management services directors, buildings and ground supervisors respond to issues that occur in the institution where daily maintenance issues are required. But any major projects, and a fence obviously is a major project at a department level, would have to be identified to central office staff, investigated by central office staff, and approved for any work to be done. And the warden or the management service director at an institution would not be the individuals involved with contracting that work to be done.
Okay, and do you know what a security chief is?
I do.
Okay, what is the security chief, and where's that position located?
The security chief works in the administrative office of the Department of Corrections.
Okay,
The
and
security chief is the individual responsible, or is the first point of resource for security directors and security issues throughout the department.
okay, and do you believe that the security chief would have been aware of the issue with the fence?
Oh, without a doubt. And also, I believe, and I'm going back on memory now, but I know there was a security audit conducted at Columbia Correctional Institution while I was there as warden. And I know, I do believe that the issues with the fence were identified by the folks that conducted that audit. And I know the results of security audits done at correctional institutions are provided to the security chief and I believe the administrator for the Department of Corrections.
Great. Okay, you're doing a great job of anticipating a lot of my questions here, and I appreciate that. So, you believe that the division administrator would have also been aware of the issue with the security stun fence, right?
I'm going to object speculation. Speculation. Lack of personal knowledge.
Should I answer the question?
Hold on, Judge, you're muted. Judge, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I appreciate it. No, don't answer the question, Mr. Dittman. Mr. Cross, could you ask the question in a way to get the foundation first?
Sure. Based on your knowledge and experience as warden of Columbia Correctional Institution, do you believe that the division administrator was aware of the issue with the stun fence while you were the warden?
I can only say that he or she should have been. I know the security chief would have had the report, and what the security chief did with the report, I can't speak to. I can only speak to process.
Okay. And but can you speak to whether or not the administrator would have been aware that a warden could not replace the fence by their own means?
Oh, yes. Yes. No doubt about that.
Why do you believe that?
Well, because that's not part of the warden's role. A warden doesn't have the authority to authorize and engage in a process that would have been that large. You know, that would have had to have been budgeted, because in order to respond to the issue with the fence, which is, I believe, is I don't remember if the stun was backwards on the inside or the outside of the fence. But in order to do that, I just know it would have been an incredibly expensive project to respond to it, and that authorization would have had to come from the department level, well beyond the responsibilities or authorities of the warden.
Okay. And while you were warden at Columbia Correctional Institution, was there ever a time that you were aware of where there was a female warden of a maximum security institution other than Taichida?
Yes.
Okay, who was that?
Well, I know Judy Smith was a warden, a very tenured warden. There was a female. There's a female warden for the juvenile system, I believe. I believe there was female wardens at Racine Correctional Institution. There were female wardens at Oak Hill Correctional Institution. There were female wardens at New Lisbon Correctional Institution, and I'm probably missing some.
And are all those maximum security facilities?
No, no, they're across the board. And
Okay.
there was Kathy Jess was a warden at Dodge Correctional Institution. That was a maximum security institution.
Okay. Okay. I think that. And do you know when that happened?
Yeah, I would just be going back and guessing on dates.
Okay, no, I get it, but the point is that there is precedent for women being wardens at maximum security institutions before Sue Novak, based on your experience, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, great. Now, if we can shift over to another topic, I'm going to ask you about your knowledge of the disciplinary process.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to start with is, as warden, do you have a supervisor, or did you have a supervisor?
Yes.
Okay. What was that position, or what was the title of the supervisor?
That would have been the at the time administrator for Division of Adult Institutions. That would have been James Schwacker.
Okay. And if you, let's put it like this, if there was a question about whether or not to discipline an employee, right? If you had a question in your mind about whether to discipline an employee, who would you go to?
I would have gone to the assistant administrator that would have been assigned to respond to issues at my institution. That would have been Mark Clemens first, and if the question couldn't have been answered at that point, it would have gone to Mr. Schwacker.
Okay, so basically up the chain of command, does that sound right?
That's correct.
Okay, and how do you know that you were to go to the assistant administrator?
Because that's the process. That was when there was disciplinary situations, whether you had questions about them or not. Those were discussed with HR at central office level and with the assistant administrator that's assigned to the institution that you work.
Oh, okay. And but so is that like a universal rule? Is that what that means? Does that happen anytime you have a question, or anytime there's a disciplinary procedure, you go and talk to the HR and the assistant administrator?
Yeah,
Judge, I'm just going to object to the time frame here. I think this warden testified that he resigned in July 2018, so this testimony is limited to that point and prior.
All right, I'm going to understand that that's what it is, and we'll see if there's any changes. Go ahead, Mr. Cross.
Great. Okay, I'm sorry, sir. So I guess my question again, because I just for clarification purposes, was: did you mean that you were to go to HR and the assistant administrator for any time there was discipline?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you do it? You did it prior to imposing discipline or after?
Well, prior.
Okay. And is that a policy Is that written down or is that just the practice?
I have to think about that. I'm going to answer that it was the process. The
Okay.
warden did not administer the discipline on his or her work. That needs to be approved from central office HR staff.
Okay.
To give you an example, if I felt after an employee was disciplined for a specific violation of work rules, and I felt that that employee, through the progression of discipline, should receive a one-day suspension, for example. If I felt that as the warden, that decision would have to go through central office staff. There was a committee that reviewed disciplines at a central office level, and the final decision was with that committee, and that was written policy.
Okay. Now I understand. And to be clear though, the warden as the appointing authority, or the warden is the appointing authority, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the warden's also the one who's ultimately writing the letter of discipline, right?
Well, the warden is signing off on a letter of discipline. It's put together through HR staff.
Okay. So the warden doesn't write it, the HR writes it.
Correct. And the warden reviews it, and if it's appropriate, then it's signed and administered.
Okay. And based on your time as warden, was there ever a letter of discipline that you were told to sign that you disagreed with?
I'm going to object to relevance. That's not what's at issue in this case.
I don't see why we're going over it, Mr. Cross. Why?
Okay. Um, so now let's take it up a step higher though, because as the institution, the warden is the head of the institution, right?
Correct.
Okay. So presumably the warden couldn't discipline themselves, right?
Correct.
Okay. Who is responsible for who has disciplinary powers over a warden?
That would have been the disciplinary review committee that was headed up by HR staff at the central office level. What would happen is when the warden and HR staff would identify through an investigation that discipline was necessary, that write-up and recommendation, and I say again, recommendation from the warden would go to the disciplinary review committee at central office, and those are the folks that identified what the discipline was going to be, if any at all.
Okay, I got it. And again, even though the warden's the one writing the letter.
Even though the warden is writing the recommendation for discipline, the warden didn't write a letter for discipline unless it was until the discipline was approved at the central office level.
Okay, I got it. So, and I'm sorry, though we went down a little bit further down that path than I was hoping to. I'm trying to take us now to another level here, which is because I think we're talking about discipline of DOC employees below the warden, right?
Okay.
Okay, so can we just talk about discipline at the warden level and above? Do you have any knowledge or experience with that?
No, I've never been involved in that process. It's the same process. There's still a disciplinary investigation conducted, and the results probably are, or not probably, they are reviewed at the secretary's office level, and still the disciplinary review board would still be the group responsible to approve what discipline was recommended or not.